Assalamu alaikum guys, it's me John, and today we're going to talk about something called interrogative particles. Now if that term intimidates you a little bit, don't worry, it's just a really fancy term to describe something that you're all pretty familiar with in English, and that's just question words, right? It's pretty simple. And for some of you this might be kind of review, and for others it might be completely brand new, but some of the interrogative particles that you may be familiar with are hal, ma, mother, and I, which mean hal, for example, is used to introduce a yes or no question, just like do in English. Do you like baseball? Do you like ice cream? Whatever. You can think of thousands of examples. Ma just means what, and we use it in sentences without verbs. And mother also means what, but we use it in sentences with verbs. And I just means which. Then we have a few more over here, which you've probably seen a lot in your readings. Man, that means who. Chem, how many. Kaif, or kaif, is how. And aina is where. Now you can go ahead and pause it real quick and just study those if you've never seen some of them before and try to commit them to memory. But now we're just going to move on and look at some examples, look at how to use these in sentences. Okay, so starting with hal, which again is used to introduce yes or no questions, we can look at one example. So, hal anta Ameriki? Just anta Ameriki means you are American. If you put the hal in front of it, it means are you American? And it's a yes or no question. Naam or la, right? Another example, hal anta talib fi Jamiat Milwaukee? Without the hal there, it just means you are a student at the University of Milwaukee. Put the hal in front of it, it turns it into a question. It should be noted though that in like colloquial or like spoken Arabic, you don't actually have to use this particle here. You can just say Enta talib fi Jamiat Milwaukee, and the tone of your voice will just suggest that it's a question. Okay, moving on. Okay, so next we have what, or ma, and this is for sentences that don't have verbs in them. So looking at one example, we have ma ism walidatik. So what is the name of your mother? The mother of you. We use the suffix there for you, your mother. Ma ism walidatik. What's your mother's name? Another example, ma jinsiyatik, right? And then if we look at mada, which is what, but for sentences with verbs, we see that you'd say, instead of ma, you'd say, ماذا تدرسين في الجامعة? So, what do you study in the university, or just at university, right? And we see here that it's تدرسين, so it's asking, it's like second person female. And it would be ماذا تدرس في الجامعة if you're just talking to like a guy. Another example, ماذا تحب أن تشرب? What do you like to drink, right? And we're using mada here because these are verbs, right? We would not use ma. And so something that we can do with mada that you can't really do with ma is you can add another particle to it, an, right? It means about. Because like a lot of times when we use the word what in English in a verbal sentence, we want to say like, what are you talking about? What are you thinking about? In Arabic though, the order is just a little different. The structure is different. They say, about what are you talking? We can also say that in English, but it sounds a little fancier. So the structure looks like this. To say, what are you talking about? You say, an mada tatakallum, right? About what are you talking? Another example, real quick, is just what are you reading about? An mada تقرأ. So just try to memorize that structure, and there will be like a little sort of like quiz underneath this video and that you can practice with. So moving on. The next one is the interrogative particle man, who. And the short vowel in there, just so you're clear about this, is this. So man. Not min, which means from, which you're very familiar with. But so looking at some examples, we have man huwa ahsan talib fi as-saf. So who is the best student in the class, right? Pretty simple, straightforward. Another one, man huwa sadiqatik al-mufaddal. So who is your best friend, right? Your friend that you favor the most. And then we have, just like before, you can add another particle to this one to like change the meaning. We often, when we use this particle in English, we like to say, who were you doing this with, right? So just like before you put it in front, you say with whom. You can also say it in English, but we don't use it as often. But that's how the structure works in Arabic. So with whom do you like to study, right? And you're addressing a female directly in the second person here. مع من تحبين أن تدرسين. With whom do you like to study? Instead of saying, who do you like to study with, right? Another example, with whom do you like to eat? مع من تحب أن تأكل, right? Okay. So here's one more. You're probably pretty familiar with this one, just aina, and the short vowel here is this on the end. So some examples, just pretty simple. Aina taskon, where do you live, right? Aina tadros, fi al-bayt أو fi al-maktaba. Where do you study? In the house or in the library, right? Then we have meta, which just means when. And there's another kind of when that you might be wondering about, but it's not an interrogative particle, right? Like when we say, when I was a child, I loved to play with my toys. There's another word for that, but that comes like way later, so we're not going to delve into that now. But that's just not an interrogative particle, right? This is when you're asking someone a question, like when did you get to the class, right? I don't know. When did you get home last night? So just looking at some examples, like when do you eat lunch, right? متى تأكل الغداء? When do you go to the university? In the morning, right? متى تذهب إلى الجامعة في الصباح? Right? Pretty simple. Almost done here. Okay. Chem is used to ask how many of something, right? Now, so let's look at this first example. كم شخص في عائلتك, right? One more. كم طالب في صفك? Okay, now if you are familiar with these two words that are being asked about, you might notice something kind of silly, right? And that is that if you translate it literally, it says how many person is in your family, right? Or how many student, singular, is in your class, right? Whereas in English, we always use plural, right? How many students, how many people are in your family. But the rule in Arabic is that they always use the singular. So if you're asking how many of something, you always use the singular. You just say one instead of plural. So it's just a little different than our system. Not too hard to memorize after a while. One more is just how. You guys are all familiar with like phrases like kifik, kaif el hal, how are you? Pretty easy to use. Kaif el jaw al yom, how is the weather today? Another one. Kaif walidik, how's your father doing, right? And then the last one is I, right? Which. One example. I film تريد أن تشاهد. Which movie do you want to watch? So another. I جامعة أكبر جامعة في Wisconsin. I'm not sure if that's how you spell Wisconsin in Arabic, but that's okay. So, which university is the biggest university in Wisconsin? And then lastly, just one little thing you could do with the particle I is that you can add another particle to it. It's not an interrogative particle, but it can make something more complicated. Fi I, which is like in which, right? You can say things like Fi I Medina Taskon. It's like asking where do you live, but being more specific. In which city do you live? It's like narrowing it down a little bit. And then similarly, you have Fi I Jamia Tadros. In which university do you study? Okay, and that is it. So I hope that helps clear up interrogative particles for you. Masalama.